Hey YouTube, what's going on and welcome back to Chironis Things. I started off my flashlight collection by getting into Sofirn flashlights, and it's been a little while since I've reviewed one recently, so today we've got a new Sofirn flashlight. And one thing that's been commonly said about Sofirn is as great as their products are, as great of a brand that they haven't really been able to nail down a good tactical flashlight yet. However, this is their newest tactical flashlight release, and it's been getting a ton of hype online. I've seen a couple videos, I've read a few reviews, and so I've been interested in it. So full disclosure here, I messaged Sofirn and asked them if they'd be willing to send one of these out for review. They did do that, so I did receive this for free. However, we're going to be giving it a completely honest review today, and we're going to determine, has Sofirn finally figured out how to make a tactical flashlight? Let's get into it. Let's get started with the dimensions on this flashlight. I'll throw those up on the side of the screen. And while we're looking at that, let's take a look at some size comparisons. All of these size comparisons will be also 21700 battery flashlights, just like this SK40. The first one is the Sofirn SP35T. This is one of their older style 21700 flashlights. Obviously, it doesn't have the larger flared out head. It comes with a floody emitter, but I actually really like this as far as the user interface and the pocketability. Now let's take a look at size here. All right, got them matched up. You'll see there that the SK40 is just a little bit longer. On the tails, or the tube I should say, they're pretty much identical, but on the head, that head is significantly larger on the Sofirn SK40. Another 21700 flashlight I have here is the Bright PT16A. This is also another dual switch tactical style flashlight. All right, there we go, and you can see that the Bright is actually longer. It's got a little bit larger diameter on the tube, and on the head, they're very, very close here. Might just be a hair larger on this Sofirn here. Yeah, just a tad bit larger on the Sofirn. And one more to look at is the Workhos TS23. I love this. This is just a tail switch tactical flashlight, no side switch. All right. Sofirn's longer. On the tube, the Workhos is larger. And on the head, the Workhos is a little bit larger on the head as well. So there's the size comparisons for the SK40. Let's take a look at the battery on this SK40. It can be accessed through the tail or the head. We'll go ahead and unscrew from the tail. And while we're doing that, let's take a look at the threads here, which are lubed a bit. Got a decent spring in there. And then we have a Sofirn branded 21700, which is listed at 3.7 volts, 5000 milliamps. That is going to be a flat top. All right. Screws on pretty easily, and as you can see, there I can unscrew the head as well to access that battery. This does have a battery indicator on the side switch. As you can see, my indicator is actually off center. This is obviously only a cosmetic issue, but once you notice it, it's really hard not to see it. I feel like every time I look at this now, all I can see is that off center indicator. But it does have a battery indicator there. And this does take about 4 hours total to charge from 0% up to 100%. That's fully empty to fully charged, basically. And I'll go ahead and throw up the battery indicator levels on the side of the screen. And this also is USB-C recharging. As you can see there, it's hidden behind a discreet little flap. I love these tiny little flaps instead of using the big giant ones. Great job there. Let's look at the overall design on this flashlight. We'll start off with the tail, and we'll start with this tail switch here. So as you can see, we have a rubber button, and underneath we have a mechanical switch. So when you press that, you'll see you do get a little bit of deflation on the button. Not terrible, but let's talk a little bit more about this button here. So I'm going to pull back out this SP35T. This is also using a rubber button with the mechanical switch underneath. Let's try to listen to these, and hopefully this picks up on camera. This is the SP35T. You hear one click. One click. One click. Now listen to this SK40. Mine is very crunchy, and it sounds to me like it's got two switches underneath. So normally, there's just going to be one switch, and you're basically just going to press that down, and sometimes you can feel the switch underneath the button, depending on how good the rubber button is that they use. But on this one, it feels like there's two switches, like a two-stage switch. For example, like on the Movin T4, how you can engage the first switch in order to do something and then engage the second. But that's not how the user interface works on here. It's a single switch. It's a single switch operating system. So I don't understand why it feels like this or sounds like this. It's very crunchy. It's not pleasant to use. And it sometimes gets stuck on me in the process of when I'm actually turning the light on, when I'm engaging. Sometimes when I let my finger go, the switch gets stuck down and I have to press it again to release it. So I have had a little bit of issues with the tail switch. I'm not a huge fan of it. One thing that is really good though, and this is extremely important to me, if the light is going to advertise itself as a tactical flashlight, something a police officer or first responder should use, whatever the case may be, it needs to be able to be clicked on from the sides as well and not just from the middle. This one right here, I can get it all the way on the side and it still engages the switch completely. Even when I'm not touching the switch, I'm just getting a little bit of the rubber button all the way over there, I can still get the light on. They did a very good job of making it to where it's extremely responsive no matter where you click on the button. So there is some good things about this button, but something's going on there underneath. I would love to actually disassemble this or see a picture of this disassembled to see what's going on with that switch there. Something that's odd to me about that is the fact that in the other reviews that I've watched, nobody mentions anything about that tail switch. So I'm left with the question of, is there a quality control issue with my tail switch? Or is this the way they are and either nobody cares or just nobody's willing to mention it? Obviously, if I find something I don't like on a light, I'm going to mention it. Regardless though, that's what's going on with my tail switch. Now as we continue moving on here to the tail, you see we do have two large lanyard holes, which I have used. So I've got the Sofirn lanyard in there. I like using it. The question is, does it still tail stand with the lanyard? It does tail stand even with that lanyard connected down there. So that's good. Let's continue moving here. You'll see that we have a one-stage clip, so not a two, or one-way clip, I should say. So it is a little bit deep carry, I suppose, in how it curves up, but you'll see it does not fully cover the entire tail. Let me make clear here that on these tactical style lights, you're not supposed to fully cover them. You're supposed to be able to engage that tail switch quickly and easily, so they're always going to expose some of that, but otherwise it does a pretty good job. This light's too large to use as a two-way in my opinion, so there's nothing wrong with the clip. It does just fine. Let's keep moving here. You'll see that we kind of have some large knurling on it. It's almost slightly aggressive. Like for example, look at the old school knurling that Sofirn used to use. It was like this diamond style knurling. I actually kind of liked it. I feel like even though stuff gets stuck in it, gets dirty easy, holds up really well. And then another one here. Let's look at actually both of these again, the Workos and the Bright Night. I feel like we have three comparisons here of a similar style. So it's like Bright Night has it in a similar style, but the flattest and least aggressive. Workos has it like right in a nice in between, and Sofirn's is really large and aggressive. I think that the Workos does it just right there. But on the Sofirn, yeah, it works. You get grip on it, but it's almost just so large that it is almost like a little bit, just, I don't know what word to use other than aggressive. And when you hold that knurling. Anyways, though, you'll see it kind of stops here onto this little nut here that goes before the head. And so your hand kind of gets locked in there just like that. So that's pretty nice. Let's keep moving up the flashlight here. You'll see we have the brand name. We have the side switch we already looked at. I'll make a couple comments on it. It is not only rubber, but sometimes on a side switch you can feel the switch underneath. I can't feel the switch under. This is a nice solid rubber button that they use here. I like that. We do have two large fins here on each side. So you see the two large cutouts here. And those help with heat dissipation. And since there's such large cutouts, that should help a little bit there. On the back, we already covered the USB-C flap. And then we have kind of a fairly large head here at the top. And then we get into this crenulated bezel. Nothing wrong with this bezel at all. I actually kind of like it. I think it could be slightly better though. And then let me show you. On the Workos, they look to me like they're almost the exact same bezel. I mean, they're really, really close. But Workos added these tiny little glass breaking beads. They're not aggressive. They don't really stick out in your pocket. But they're there if you need them. I wish that Sofirn would have added those as well. But I do still really like the bezel. And I also like the aesthetics of it too. The two-tone that they did. And when we look in the top here, we can see we've got a deep reflector down in there. Let's look at the LED and performance on here. So as far as the LED, we are working with an SFT70. In comparison to a lot of flashlights that are using the SFT40, this SFT70 still will be very nice. It's going to be a bit brighter. It might not give you quite as much throw, but it will give you a little bit more spill, a little bit of a wider beam. This is still really, really good for use on a tactical flashlight. I like it a lot, the SFT70. It's actually what's running in this PT16A. So I'm used to using an SFT70. And you'll see in the Beamshots why this has been getting such good reviews. Regardless of what you think of the build of this flashlight, you can't really deny the performance and the beam profile on this. So this is running the SFT70, but it's also running an upgraded driver. So this is running a boost driver. So you're going to get better run times on this. You're going to get better sustained output. You're getting a lot for the price, which obviously we'll cover later in the video, but you're getting a lot of good features on this flashlight for the price you're going to pay for it. Let's take a look at the performance numbers on the side of the screen. And next we're going to look at the user interface on this flashlight. So I'm actually going to throw a picture of that up on the side of the screen as well. And I'll show you the basics here. The most important to me is that you can access turbo through a slight half click and a full, just like that, whether it be momentary by not letting go or whether it be leaving it on. You can also access turbo from the side switch once the tail light's on. So regardless of what mode you're on the tail switch, you can access turbo while you're using your flashlight. So two different ways to access turbo there. Additionally, we of course have the momentary, which I really like how momentary works on here, and that it has a little bit of travel, just enough to where it doesn't constantly go off in your pocket or anything, but it's still very easy to access, very easy to let go. Like, you can definitely use momentary so easily in this flashlight, which I think is really important. Side switch is not going to do anything while your tail switch is not on or while your flashlight's not on. This button is basically unresponsive. Once it's on though, then you can do whatever you need with it. You can switch to turbo, double click, triple click into strobes, cycle through those strobes with double click each. You can just single click to go through your modes. See that? Low, medium, high. You can access moonlight by holding down the side switch and hitting the tail switch. I love that. So this is actually a very similar user interface to the Workos FC12 if you're familiar with that flashlight. And as I showed up on the side of the screen, this does have two different modes you can use. This does have the duty mode and the tactical mode. So there's a lot more going on there. Check out that user interface tree that I put on the side of the screen. But the most important things to me are the quick accesses to turbo. You can cycle through your modes very easily. Quick access to moonlight mode, and being able to go into momentary so easily. Let me show you something else real quick. I'm going to leave this off on high mode Turn it back on, it goes into high mode. Let's go to low. Same thing. Memory mode on this. So very nice user interface. I'm used to using it on the FC12, and this one's so similar that I'm very happy that they went with this user interface. Let's take this outside and see what it can do with some beam shots. Let's get into my final thoughts on the Sofirn SK40. So obviously, it's a little bit weird looking at an off-center indicator there, but that's just cosmetic. The tail switch is really the problem for me. If that wasn't so crunchy like that, and it didn't feel like I'm hitting two switches, and it didn't occasionally, which it is very rare to happen, but I think it's happened to me twice so far, where it's gotten stuck at least for a moment. If it weren't for that, I genuinely have no complaints over this. Like, they almost got this just right. Like, this is very, very good. And I mean, you got to consider this is running a significant, at significant less money than something like this Bright Night, for example. This is my most used tactical flashlight. I carry this a lot. This is like double the price of the Sofirn. I feel that this does a lot of the things that Bright Night does, if only they could just get this tail switch better. Now, like I said, that may only be an issue of mine. It might be a quality control issue because I haven't seen anybody else comment on that. So maybe it's just an issue with mine, or maybe just nobody's bringing it up, or maybe nobody cares. I don't know. But if it weren't for that, I would say that this light is almost perfect for the price you pay for it. They actually did do a really good job with a tactical flashlight here. The head is large enough to where you get that great beam profile. You're getting the really good performance out of this with it still honestly being pretty pocketable, pretty carryable. So that's pretty much my thoughts on it. This is almost just right, except for a couple small issues, I guess. I really can't complain about this. So they did do a good job of making a tactical flashlight. I do like it. So let's get into the price on this. We are looking at listed at $69 or $70 on Amazon. However, it's 30% off, so $49. So that's what I'm saying. Half the price of the Bright Night, basically. Really, really good for what you're getting. You're getting a real, actual tactical user interface. You're getting good size. You're getting a great beam profile, good performance, boost driver, SFT 70. A lot of good things going on with this light for $49. I definitely say pick it up and give it a chance. However, just keep in mind, you may have issues with the tail switch just like mine. Let me be transparent on that. And if you're still here in this video, I'm really hoping to hit 1,000 subscribers soon. If you would consider subscribing, it'd mean a lot to me. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great week.